The Lotus Sutra, Chapter 7, The Apparitional City. The Buddha addressed the monks saying, quote, "Once upon a time, immeasurable, limitless, inconceivable, incalculable kalpas ago, there was a Buddha called Mahabhijnanabibhu Tathagata, an Arhat, completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. His land was called Susambhava, in the Kalpa called Maharupa. O monks, it has been an extremely long time since this Buddha entered nirvana. Suppose there was a man who ground the earth of the entire great manifold cosmos into powdered ink, and he were to then pass through 1,000 worlds to the east, where he let fall a single particle of ink the size of a speck of dust. After passing through another 1,000 worlds, he let fall another particle, and he continued in this way until he had completely used all the ink. What do you think about this? Do you think that a mathematician or a mathematician's pupil would be able to count those worlds to the last particle, or not? O Bhagavat, no, they could not. O monks, suppose that all the worlds this man passed through, whether letting fall a particle or not, were all ground into dust, and one speck of this dust were equal to one kalpa. The time since the parinirvana of this Buddha surpasses this number by immeasurable, limitless, incalculable hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of kalpas. And through the power of the Tathagata's wisdom and insight, I can see this distant past as if it were today." Thereupon, the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this further, spoke these verses, quote, "I recall that in the past, immeasurable kalpas ago, there was a Buddha, the most honored among two-legged beings, called Mahabhijnanabibhu. Suppose there was a man who vigorously ground up in its entirety the earth of the great manifold cosmos and turned it all to powdered ink. After passing through 1,000 worlds, he let fall one particle of ink, and in this way he continued to let fall particles until he had used up all the ink. If all these worlds, those where he let fall a particle, and those where he did not, were to be ground into specks of dust, and one speck of dust were equal to a single kalpa, their number would be surpassed by the number of kalpas that have passed since that Buddha's parinirvana. So incalculable has this number of kalpas been. With the Tathagata's unobstructed wisdom, I know of these bodhisattvas and sravakas and the parinirvana of this Buddha. It is as if I see his parinirvana today. O monks, you should know that with the knowledge of the Buddha, which is pure and subtle, incorrupted and without obstructions, I perceive what happened immeasurable kalpas ago." The Buddha addressed the monks saying, quote, "The lifespan of this Buddha, Mahabhijnanabibhu, was 540 myriads of kotis of nayutas of kalpas. When that Buddha was seated on the terrace of enlightenment after having defeated Mara's army, he tried to obtain highest complete enlightenment, yet the Dharma of the Buddhas did not appear to him. In this way, even after having sat cross-legged for 1 to 10 intermediate kalpas, undisturbed in body and mind, the Dharma of the Buddhas still did not appear to him. At that time, a group of 33 devas first prepared for that Buddha a lion's seat 1 yojana in height under the Bodhi tree, for this Buddha was to attain highest complete enlightenment on that seat. As soon as the Buddha sat on this seat, all the Brahmas rained down various heavenly flowers for 100 yojanas around. Periodically a fragrant breeze would blow away the withered flowers, and they would rain down fresh ones. In this way, they unceasingly paid homage to the Buddha for a full 10 intermediate kalpas, raining down these flowers continuously until his parinirvana. The devas of the four quarters constantly struck heavenly drums to honor the Buddha, and in the same way, all the other devas made divine music for a full 10 intermediate kalpas until his parinirvana. O monks, the Dharma of the Buddhas appeared to the Buddha Mahabhijnana Bibhu after 10 intermediate kalpas had passed, and he attained highest complete enlightenment. This Buddha had 16 children before he renounced household life. The eldest child was called Jnanakara. Each child had various kinds of rare toys. After hearing about their father's attainment of highest complete enlightenment, they all put aside their toys and set out for where the Buddha was. Weeping sad tears, their mothers saw them off. Their grandfather, the wheel-turning sage king, went with them, along with 100 ministers and hundreds of thousands of myriads of kotis of people. When they arrived at the terrace of enlightenment, they all wanted to approach the Tathagata Mahabhijnana Bibhu and pay homage and respect, honor and praise him. They came up to him and bowed until their foreheads touched his feet, and then circled around him. Attentively, with palms pressed together, they gazed at the Bhagavat and spoke these verses. The Bhagavat of great virtuous dignity, in order to bring sentient beings to the path, after immeasurable kotis of kalpas and perfecting all the vows, finally became a Buddha. How wonderful! There is nothing more auspicious. The Bhagavat is truly extraordinary. He sat tranquil for 10 intermediate kalpas, with his body and limbs immobile. His mind was always calm and never distracted. He has attained ultimate eternal tranquility and is firmly established in the incorruptible Dharma. Now, seeing the Bhagavat, who has serenely attained the Buddha path, we receive benefit and celebrate with great joy. Sentient beings, ever suffering, are blind and without a teacher. They are unaware of the path that leads to the extinction of suffering, ignorant of the way to seek liberation. From one blind state to the next, those in the troubled states of being daily increase, while the devas decrease. They never hear the Buddha's name. Now, the Buddha has attained the highest, serene, and incorruptible Dharma. Thus, we and the devas and humans shall obtain the greatest benefit. Therefore, we all bow and pay homage to the highest Lord. At that time, the 16 princes, having praised the Buddha in verse, requested that the Bhagavat turn the wheel of the Dharma, saying, quote, O Bhagavat, teach the Dharma. Put all the devas and people at ease and benefit them through your compassion. They spoke further in verse, saying, O hero of the world, the one who has no equal, who is adorned with 100 merits and has attained the highest wisdom, we entreat you to teach for the sake of the world and bring us and all the other sentient beings to the path. Illuminate and reveal this wisdom so that we may attain it. If we can become Buddhas, so can the other sentient beings. The Bhagavat knows the deep-seated intentions of sentient beings and the paths they practice, as well as the power of their wisdom. May the Bhagavat, being wholly aware of their positive intentions, accumulated merits, and past deeds, turn the highest wheel of the Dharma. The Buddha addressed the monks, saying, quote, when the Buddha Mahabhijna attained highest complete enlightenment, 500 myriads of kotis of Buddha worlds in each of the 10 directions quaked in 6 ways. The dark places between the worlds, where the rays of the sun and moon had been unable to penetrate, were brightly illuminated. The sentient beings there were able to see each other and said, quote, how is it possible that sentient beings have suddenly appeared here? Moreover, those worlds from the heavenly palaces up to the palaces of the Brahmas also quaked in 6 ways. The great ray of light shone everywhere, filling the worlds with a radiance that surpassed the light of the Devas. At that time, the palaces of Brahmas in the 500 myriads of kotis of worlds in the east were illuminated twice as brightly as usual. The great Brahmas each thought, quote, the palaces are illuminated now as never before. What has caused this phenomenon? At that time, all of the great Brahmas approached each other to discuss this matter. In that assembly, there was a great Brahma called Sarvasattvatratar, who spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse, saying, quote, this illumination of our palaces has never occurred before. Let us find out the reason for this. This great ray of light has illuminated the 10 directions. Has a diva of great merit been born, or has a Buddha appeared in the world? Then the great Brahmas of the 100 myriads of kotis of worlds went toward the west with their palaces to inquire about this phenomenon, carrying heavenly flowers in their robes. They saw the Tathagata Mahabhijna on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-humans as Devas, Naga kings, Gandharvas, Kimnaras, and Maharagas. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then the great Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet, and then circled around him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly flowers on the Buddha, and the flowers they scattered were piled high as Mount Sumeru. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree, which was 10 yojanas in height. Having reverently offered him flowers, they presented their palaces to the Buddha, saying, quote, please accept the palaces we now offer you and benefit us through your compassion. Then the great Brahma spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha, quote, the Bhagavat, who is truly extraordinary, is extremely difficult to meet. He is endowed with immeasurable qualities and seeks to protect all. The great teacher of devas and humans feels compassion for the world and causes all sentient beings in the 10 directions to be universally benefited. All of us, who have come from 500 myriads of kotis of worlds, have given up the pleasure of deep meditation in order to pay homage to the Buddha. To the Bhagavat, we now present our palaces, which the merits of our previous lives have caused to be completely adorned. Please accept them through your compassion. Thereupon, having praised the Buddha in verse, the great Brahmas each said this, quote, O Bhagavat, we entreat you to turn the wheel of the Dharma, open the path to nirvana, and guide sentient beings to it. Then the great Brahmas attentively spoke these verses in unison. O hero of the world, the most honored among 2-legged beings, we entreat you to expound the Dharma and bring the suffering beings to the path through the power of your great compassion. Then the Tathagata Mahabhijna silently consented. Furthermore, O monks, the great Brahmas in the 500 myriads of kotis of worlds in the southeast saw their palaces illuminated with a ray of light that had never occurred before. Joyful and ecstatic, they were struck with wonder. They assembled to discuss the matter. At that time, there was a great Brahma called Adhimatrakarunaka. He spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse, saying, quote, "What is the reason that this phenomenon has appeared? Even since the olden times, this illumination of all our palaces is without precedent. Has a diva of great merit been born, or has a Buddha appeared in the world? Since we have never seen such a phenomenon, we should seek thoroughly for its source. Even if we have to pass through thousands of myriads of kotis of worlds, we should seek together for the source of this light. Possibly a Buddha has appeared in the world to save suffering beings." Thereupon, 500 myriads of kotis of great Brahmas went toward the northwest with their palaces, carrying heavenly flowers in their robes, to inquire about this phenomenon. They saw the Tathagata Mahavijnana Bibhu on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-humans as Devas, Naga kings, Gandharvas, Kimnaras, and Maharagas. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then all the Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet, and then circled around him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly flowers on the Buddha, and the flowers they scattered were piled up high as Mount Sumeru. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree. Having reverently offered the Buddha flowers, they presented their palaces to him, saying, quote, "Please accept the palaces we now offer you, and benefit us through your compassion." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha, quote, "O great sage, diva of divas, we now bow to the one whose voice is as beautiful as the Kalavinka birds, and who has compassion for sentient beings. The Bhagavat is truly extraordinary, and can only be seen once in an extremely long time. 180 kalpas have passed away fruitlessly, and no Buddhas have appeared during this time. The worlds have been filled with people in the 3 troubled states of being, and the divas have decreased. The Buddha has now appeared in the world to be the eyes of sentient beings. He will be the refuge of the world and will seek to protect all. As the Father of sentient beings, He is the compassionate benefactor. Because of our past merits, we now have the good fortune to be able to meet the Bhagavat." Thereupon, having praised the Buddha in verse, the great Brahmas said this, quote, "O Bhagavat, we entreat you to turn the wheel of the Dharma out of your compassion for all and save sentient beings." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison, quote, "O great sage, make us very happy. Turn the wheel of the Dharma. Reveal the character of all Dharmas. Save the suffering beings. If sentient beings hear this Dharma, they will attain the path and be born as divas. The beings in the troubled states of being will decrease, while those who persevere in the good will increase." Then the Tathagata Mahavijnana Bibhu silently consented. Furthermore, O monks, the great Brahmas in the 500s of thousands of kotis of lands in the south, each saw their palaces illuminated as they had never been before. Joyful and ecstatic, they were struck with wonder. They immediately assembled to discuss this matter together, asking, "Why have our palaces been illuminated?" At that time, there was a great Brahma called Sudharma. He spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse, saying, quote, Our palaces are illuminated with brilliant light. There must be a reason for this, and we should seek its source. We have not seen such a phenomenon during the past hundreds of thousands of kalpas. Has a diva of great merit been born? Or has a Buddha appeared in the world? Thereupon, 500 myriads of kotis of great Brahmas went toward the north with their palaces to inquire about this phenomenon, carrying heavenly flowers in their robes. They saw the Tathagata Mahabhijnana Bhikkhu on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-humans as devas, Naga kings, Gandharvas, Kimnaras, and Maharagas. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then all the great Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet, and then circled around him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly flowers on the Buddha, and the flowers they scattered piled up as high as Mount Sumeru. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree. Having revered the Buddha with flowers, they offered their palaces to him, saying, quote, "Please accept the palaces we now offer you and benefit us through your compassion." Then the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha. O destroyer of afflictions, it is extremely difficult to meet a Bhagavat. We are now meeting the Buddha for the first time since 130 kalpas have passed away. Please satisfy sentient beings who are suffering from hunger and thirst by pouring down the rain of the Dharma. O one possessed of immeasurable wisdom, whom we have never met before, today we have encountered the one who appears as rarely as the Udambara flower blooms. Our palaces are beautifully adorned by this ray of light. We entreat you to accept them out of your great compassion. Thereupon, having praised the Buddha in verse, the great Brahma said this, quote, "O Bhagavat, we request that you turn the wheel of the Dharma, thus causing the Devamaras, Brahmas, Shramanas, and Brahmins to be at ease and saving them all." Then the great Brahma spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison, quote, "We entreat you, O best of devas and humans, to turn the wheel of the highest Dharma, beat the drum of the great Dharma, blow the conch of the great Dharma, rain the rain of the great Dharma everywhere, and save incalculable sentient beings. We have all come to request that you expound it with your profound voice." Then the Tathagata Mahabhijnana Bhikkhu silently consented. The very same thing happened in the worlds from the southwestern to the lower regions, as well as those in other directions. Then all the great Brahmas in the 500 myriads of kotis of lands in the upper region saw their palaces illuminated with a light that had never existed before. Joyful and ecstatic, they were struck with wonder. They immediately assembled to discuss this matter together, asking, quote, "Why have our palaces been illuminated?" There was a great Brahma in that assembly called Sikhin. He spoke to the assembly of Brahmas in verse, saying, quote, "Why have all our palaces been brilliantly illuminated with this light of virtuous dignity and adorned in this unprecedented way? We have never seen such a wonderful phenomenon. Has a diva of great merit been born? Or has a Buddha appeared in the world?" And thereupon, 500 myriads of kotis of great Brahmas went into the lower regions with their palaces to inquire about this phenomenon, carrying heavenly flowers in their robes. They saw the Tathagata Mahabhijnana Bhikkhu on the terrace of enlightenment, sitting on the lion's seat under the Bodhi tree. He was respectfully surrounded by humans and such non-humans as devas, Naga kings, Gandharvas, Kimnaras, and Mahoragas. They also saw the 16 princes requesting the Buddha to turn the wheel of the Dharma. Then all the great Brahmas bowed until their foreheads touched the Buddha's feet, and then circumambulated him 100,000 times. They scattered heavenly flowers on the Buddha, and the flowers they scattered were piled up as high as Mount Sumeru. They also paid homage to the Buddha's Bodhi tree. Having reverently offered him flowers, they presented their palaces to the Buddha, saying, quote, "Please accept the palaces we now offer you and benefit us through your compassion." Then all the great Brahmas spoke these verses wholeheartedly and in unison before the Buddha. How splendid it is to meet the Buddhas, the great sages who deliver the world, who diligently work to get sentient beings out of the hell of the triple world. The best of devas and humans, who has universal wisdom, out of compassion for everyone, opens the gate to immortality and extensively saves all. Since olden times, immeasurable kalpas have passed away in vain without the presence of the Buddha. In the time before the Bhagavad appears, the 10 directions are in constant darkness. Those in the 3 troubled states of being increase, and the asuras also flourish. The devas decrease all the more, and when they die, many of them fall into those troubled states. Having never heard the teaching from the Buddha, all of them always behave badly, and their physical power and wisdom decreases. Because of their erring deeds, they lose happiness or any notion of it. Abiding in the teaching of false views, they know nothing of good conduct. Deprived of the Buddha's inspiration, they always fall into the troubled states of being. After a very long time, the Buddha has now appeared as the eye of the world. It is out of compassion for sentient beings that the Buddha appears in the world. Transcending everything, the Buddha has attained complete enlightenment. We are all extremely happy, and all the other beings joyfully acclaim this unprecedented experience. All our palaces are beautifully adorned by this ray of light. We now offer them to the Bhagavat. Please accept them out of your compassion. By the universal transference of this merit, may we and all other beings together attain the Buddha path. Thereupon, the 500 myriads of kotis of great Brahmas, having praised the Buddha in verse, each spoke to him, saying, quote, "O Bhagavat, we strongly entreat you to turn the wheel of the Dharma, give ease to many, and enable them to attain the path." Then all the great Brahmas spoke these verses, quote, "O Bhagavat, turn the wheel of the Dharma, beat the drum of the Dharma of immortality, save the suffering sentient beings, and reveal the path to nirvana. We strongly entreat you to accept our request, and out of your compassion and with your wonderful voice, expound the Dharma that you have perfected over immeasurable kalpas."